All right. We are live. Myself, from Jersey Mike's Arena, Steve Politi. I imagine it is home at an undisclosed location. I'm not going to dox you, Steve Politi. And we have a lot to talk about tonight. A busy Friday night in Piscataway. There's football roster moves. There is a more competitive basketball game than we expected. But hold on a second. I just had the live video in my ear. That was very distracting. So we have all that stuff. And yet Steve Politi is spending his Friday night watching the finale of Stranger Things, which I have only seen panned widely. Steve, what are you doing?
Well, to be honest with you, so this is good. So we watched some of it, most of it, and my wife said, let's finish it. And I look at the basketball score, and Rutgers is up big. They're up by 15 points. I'm like, yeah, let's just polish it off. And I come back, and stranger things have happened. They're down like 8 points by the time it's over. What happened? And believe me, the Stranger Things finale was like 20. It was like 3 hours long. It was forever. Well, not forever. But let's not talk about that. Let's talk about the big thing that happened tonight. Come on, KJ Duff coming back to Piscataway. I don't think there was a development for this football program that could be any bigger than that at this point. They had to keep that kid after losing Ian Strong. I was a little worried. I wasn't sure which way it was going to go. I thought it was a 50-50 thing. You know, you're hearing rumors that different programs are after him. Like Notre Dame was involved. Like, the playoff teams were involved. And people wanted him. Like, he was a high-demand player. They kept him. Huge.
If KJ Duff went into the transfer portal, he would be, if not the most sought-after wide receiver, certainly in the top three. I mean, he is a stud, a sophomore with 2 years left. That doesn't really matter, but you get a guy in his prime, right? Like, after he developed for 2 years, you think as a junior, that's when he's really going to be at the elevated stage. And you keep him, like you said, a lot of competition. Penn State, I'm sure, was salivating after watching him make that catch against them at SHI Stadium. They certainly wanted him on their roster. So to do so on the first day of the portal, I know they've been talking and negotiating for a month probably, but to do so on the first day of the portal, to do so roughly 24 hours after Ian Strong, the other wide receiver you wanted to keep, went into the portal in somewhat of a surprise. Yeah. And then to do so an hour after Antwan Raymond officially made it himself to really capitalize that. I think it's if you had to pick, two of the three guys to keep, I think you would have picked these two guys. So I think Rutgers, as much panic as there was 24 hours ago, I think you feel really good about where you stand right now.
Yeah. And looking at it in hindsight, now that it's over, probably very unlikely you're going to keep both those receivers, right? Like, when you think about it, and we just take money out of the equation. Like, even then, they both think they're number one receivers. They both want the ball. They're competitive guys. I mean, it just seemed like when you think of it that way, it was going to be difficult to do. I think once Strong left, though, actually you had to keep Duff. You had to do it, and then to get it done the day one, and the scene tonight, I think that was really a smart decision to bring him out there to have the moment on the Jumbotron, to let the crowd go wild, to shake hands with the governor. Kelly Zinn standing behind him during that little moment Eddie Mills kept captured. I mean, it was really well done. And give Kelly Zinn credit. Like, I hear she was very much involved in this. Give Greg Schiano credit. This is a time in college basketball history where, college football history, where no one cares about loyalty. It's all about me and money. But he managed to keep this kid on campus with some uncertainty with the offense. So good job by him.
Yeah, good job overall. I think in an ideal world, you do have both of them back. You do have these two number one wide receivers. It's better to have more good players than less. To your point, from the Ian Strong personal perspective, he has one more year of eligibility. He has some NFL draft stock to build up, right? He had a good start to the year, but by the end of the year, between injury and losing a bit of space to KJ Duff, he probably wants to have a big senior year to boost his stock. Right. And when you're coming back to Rutgers, where you're probably going to split the catches at best with KJ Duff, if not get overtaken, maybe you go explore another place where you have a bigger role, or you look at it from, and again, we're speculating here. I haven't spoken to Ian Strong and gotten his full reasoning, but there's certainly probably some aspect of this is a really good chance to make good money. He was making good money at Rutgers, but when you go out into the open market, you have a chance to, get other teams bidding and you raise up your own price. So Rutgers had a competitive offer for Ian Strong,
Right.
He was compensated well last year. They had a competitive offer. I don't think they had an offer that blew him away and made him have no other choice but stay at Rutgers. And I think that when he was evaluating everything, agree with him or not, I think he found that going to the portal and testing his options was the best choice for him. And it'll be interesting to see where he lands. I am fascinated to see if he lands at a team that plays against Rutgers next year. I would love to see that, obviously, for the storylines. And Rutgers is playing enough good Big Ten teams that need receivers that it's not impossible.
Yeah, no, I'd be very interested. I agree totally, and I don't have any information on it. But if he goes to a team that's in, a playoff kind of contender team, if he's a program like that, how will he play? Will he get the same amount of role in the offense as he would have gotten here? I mean, that's an interesting move for him. Understand why he's doing it totally. Now, from the Rutgers perspective, you've got Duff back, you've got your number one receiver, and he was the number one receiver late in the year. You've got Antwan Raymond, who was by far your best running back. We've talked about that ad nauseum. So your three most important players on offense. Tyler Needham's coming back. You see the building blocks there. Now you have to rely on your abilities. Now as a program, you're number 3, or you should be able to get a number 2 slot guy out of the portal. They've done that the last couple of years. You should be able to develop one of the young guys. Toure, one of these young guys on the roster to be a valuable receiver now, to kind of fill in that gap. There should be someone coming up through the pipeline who can step into that role, and then you take your money and your resources and you put them other places. I still think quarterback, I still think defensive line. I think there's going to be a lot of positions where they're going to be out there looking for guys, and this is what happens next. Will really tell what this team's going to look like next year.
Yeah, wide receiver, I feel pretty good about. I mean, KJ Duff was a highly sought after prospect, 4-star. It's not a surprise he was developed, but Ian Strong was a 3-star safety whose other option was Bucknell before he committed to Rutgers, and they developed him into a really good receiver. I trust that this coaching staff, with the number of interesting prospects in that room, they'll develop one of those guys into maybe not the next Ian Strong, but a serviceable 2 or 3 wide receiver. Right. And I agree. They definitely have to get another receiver. Unless you feel like you have a slot guy in there. I'm not sure they do, but and now you're right. They kept people they had to keep. Now they can go shopping in the portal. They're going to get a quarterback, right? I think I've completely flipped my having heard Greg Schiano twice speak publicly about AJ Surace, the quarterback position, and not definitively say AJ is our quarterback, and him say that there's going to be a competition. That has flipped my thinking into thinking they're going to pursue a quarterback. I don't know the quality, the level of quarterback they're going to get. I don't know if they're going to get Ethan Kaliakmanis, a little bit better, a little bit worse. I don't know that, but I feel pretty certain at this point that they're going to add a quarterback.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think there's any question. They're not going to go into this year with the lack of experience they have. You ever remember, I think, AJ Surace was in a position where you would want him to play. Is he ready to be the starter? We don't know. I mean, Rutgers, they're not in a position. Greg Schiano can't wait. This is an important year for him in this program, right? You can't roll your dice on, is the kid ready? We'll find out. I mean, this is not year 2. Right? This is a pretty big year. I don't think he can take that chance. I think he needs to have competition. He needs to protect against injury. There's a million reasons why they got to get into the quarterback. I think they will. And we'll see. It's going to be a wild few weeks here with the portal and the players who come out of it. They have a lot of needs. We haven't talked about the defense and the number of guys who have left. I think some of them the door held wide open. I think others they would have liked to have kept. On defense, but it's going to be an entire new roster. The 2 deep is going to be unrecognizable on defense next year. And they have to get in there and start working on that.
I don't think there's a single guy on that defense where if you lose him, you the sky is falling. Right? This was one of the worst defenses in program history. So in theory, would you have liked to keep Omasco? Sure. Would you have like to have, if Jacoby Henderson decided to stay, would that be a bad thing? No, but certainly they're not players that you're going to overstretch to keep. They're not exactly building blocks of a good defense. Bo Masco could be your number 2, number 3 corner. He can't be your premier corner. And if that's what he thinks he is, then I think that's where the shock is. And this kind of opens the door for Schiano and whoever his DC is going to be. Who heaven knows whenever that decision is going to be made, but. You're going to have to your point, get multiple defensive ends. I mean, multiple, and good ones, too. And you don't have $7 million like Texas Tech had. I'm watching the college football playoff, and some of these defensive fronts are insane. Mm-hmm. Rutgers never going to get to that point, but they're going to have to get a lot of production there. They're going to have to probably hope their young linebackers can fill in the slot. Maybe you get a linebacker, but then your secondary essentially is brand new all over again. You're getting 5 new guys all over again.
Yeah. So with the backdrop of the Duff thing, Rutgers up 15 points at Ohio State. I mean, you had to be thinking like, at least I was thinking, January 2nd. This is going to be in the competition for one of the best days of 2026 for this program. Like already, you're like only 2 days into the year. You're going to have this great day. It's going to be it's exciting. You're going to keep Duff. Crowd goes wild. Keep Raymond. Good news in the portal. Basketball team. You think they're going to lose every game in the Big Ten? They come out 15 points up on Ohio State, and then it's like, it's gone. It was bam, woof. I mean, what happened? Can you give me? I mean, give me the take here on why that evaporated so quickly.
So what happened was I started paying attention because when Rutgers was playing well, I was so engulfed in the KJ Duff mania that by the time I got to my senses, I tried to find him in the corner for a quick interview. Couldn't find him. Got myself a drink from upstairs. By the time I come back, Rutgers was up 15, and I'm wondering myself, how did this happen? And by the time I figured out what was happening, it was halftime and Rutgers was only up 4. So what happened was they started off shooting pretty well. Defensively, they were dominating physically, like forcing turnovers, controlling the paint. They were getting offensive rebounds, so they were getting second chance points. Tariq Francis had a good start. Emmanuel Bole was just all over the boards. Then Emmanuel gets 2 fouls. Rutgers starts missing shots. Ohio State goes into a zone, and they start just getting the ball into the paint at will. Rutgers misses 6 of its last 7 shots in the first half. Ohio State makes its last 3 and scores on its last 6 possessions. The gap is closed, and you go from okay, we have a cushion to, all right, it's a game all over again. Right. And as we've seen with this Rutgers team, when it's a game against a better team, you're going to need a prayer to win.
Yeah, and looked at that point, and it's funny, and I still don't quite understand this team. Best way I can put it. Like, it seems like Steve Peichel is starting one lineup, and then pretty clearly early on, that's not your best group. And it wasn't your best group again tonight. Late in the game, he completely abandoned 4 of his 5 starters. He had Grant out there, but then Tariq Francis still coming off the bench. I don't get that. Mark, I think, is your one of your best guards. It just seemed like the whole rotation was kind of wacky. But even they had a chance. They had a chance. They had to just make a shot, and this is what you come back to. Like, they just couldn't. Even when they had second chances, they just couldn't make a shot. And shot selection is not great. The offense still struggles. And what the other part of what this game, to me, why it was such a blown opportunity was this team is going to need 4 or 5 things like this to go right, like to catch an opponent on its heels, to take an early lead, to get some bounces and get some rebounds, to out physical a team, to all these things and they had all these things. They hit shots early. They were they still lost. that's and pretty decisively. I mean, it's just it's I don't know, missed opportunity.
You're only going to have so many of these. I mean, maybe Monday's going to be another one because you play Oregon in its second game on the East Coast. They had a rough game today against Maryland. They won, but it was competitive. And you're only going to have a handful of those the rest of the season. To your point, you need all the bounces, but you can't just keep giving up so many easy points in the paint. 40 points in the paint. You beat teams by having them force tough shots, hope they have a bad shooting night from 3, but when they're shooting layup after layup after layup, it's hard for team. The only team that misses a lot of shots from around the rim that I've seen is Rutgers, right? So you're gonna have to hope teams have a Rutgers-esque night, and you have to hope guys are hot. Tariq Francis was hot in the first half, and then he completely cooled down. Dylan Grant had some stretches, and then he cooled down. To your point on the rotations, I mean, Dennis Badelau was getting beat like a drum in the first 5 minutes of the second half. Beat defensively, beat offensively, just having a really, really rough time. And for some reason, he just stayed through the first 4 minutes. They went to the under 16 timeout, and he came back out. That was confounding to me. And then he replaced him with Darren Buchanan, who is an absolute agent of chaos. He is someone compared to Jordan Durkak, and I would agree. Just kind of, I'm not quite sure what he's trying to do out there.
Right.
So, in that aspect, and then Harun Zerno, just to complete this point, he's missed 11 straight threes in the last 2 games. and his shot is not even close. Like
Why are
he's
those guys
airballing
starting?
things.
I don't understand. Explain that to me.
It's a great
Make it
question.
make sense.
They each played 10 minutes, and then the freshmen, Lino Mark, Chris Newley, and Caden Powers, well, I thought all three of them played better than those two.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Lino Mark. I mean, I don't know. For me. I think he's a starter. Even, I mean, I get it. Powers is young. He's kind of there's not a shot that he has not liked in his life. He's got a lot to learn, but he's got some. He's a dynamic player. I wouldn't mind seeing more of him. Like I just feel like that you're just throwing these guys out there, and every game, by the end of the game, they're not factors in their starting lineup. It's just weird to me. I just don't remember a situation like that where by the end, but the starters are completely forgotten by the end of the game. It's just strange. And Francis is clearly like, I guess he's coming off the bench because of what happened against Seton Hall. But he's clearly your best offensive player at this point. I mean, Grant's, obviously more talented, but he's not getting it done. I don't know. It's just a very strange, strange rotations.
No real rhyme or reason that I can figure out. I mean, maybe there is, but I certainly can't figure it out. I do think this was a good showing of Mark, Newley, and Powers have to play more. Maybe not significantly more, but I thought Newley was one of the better players in that initial stretch when they were playing defensively and holding Ohio State to a reasonable point total.
He's such a non-factor offensively. I think that must be it. That's the only explanation I've got there. He just can't do anything offensively.
Maybe, but you have so many players who are somewhat of a factor offensively, but Tariq Francis, Caden Powers, Jermichael Davis to an extent are non-factors defensively, right? So there's no complete player on this roster except for maybe Dylan Grant, maybe. I mean, Bryce Dortch put in a valiant effort. I like what I see from Bryce Dortch.
Absolutely.
He's just limited, right? Like he can only do so much. He had a breakaway. He made up for it later in the game with a pick six, but early in the second half, he has a breakaway. He steals the ball. He's driving to the rim, and he gets stripped before he goes up to dunk. Like that's just you can't have that happen. And look, they weren't good defensively for much of the second half. They weren't great offensively for stretches. The zone really, really confounded them. I mean, they just couldn't figure it out. And I'll go into the comments really quick for a couple of points. A couple of people said this: long twos, mid-range twos. Why weren't they shooting threes?
It is maddening when you look at the shot chart. It just makes your head explode sometimes. I mean, every shot, is in the paint for every team they play. And then they've got a little dots. I get it. I don't get it. I don't know. Yeah, it is confounding.
What's infuriating to me is that they will dribble the ball a foot into the paint and then take a jumper. Yeah. Like, why not just dribble backwards behind the arc and shoot the three? It's almost the same shot, and one is worth 50% more. So Ken Pom, I don't know if you've seen this. I know you're really plugged in on Ken Pom, Steve, but they released a new stat on New Year's Day, average 2-point distance, and it was like there's data going back years. Rutgers has consistently been in the bottom 80 nationally in longest 2-point distance for 4 straight years. Their average distance was 7 feet, which tells you they shoot a lot of mid-range jumpers. Right. This is just this is the offense they run. They take a lot of mid-range jumpers, and when Tariq Francis is hitting 3 or 4 in a row in the first half, it looks pretty good. And then in the second half, when he misses 2 or 3, and you realize it's not sustainable, then that really kills you. But yeah, I agree. The Alchemist says that Mark is shooting 23% and 0% behind the arc. Yeah, he's not great offensively, specifically as a shooter. I'd say he adds a decent amount as a driver, slashing to the rim. Adds a little bit more of a different dynamic that Tariq Francis and Jermichael Davis can, I would say.
Totally. We got some more good comments in there if you want to throw them out. I'm like, Nebraska beat Michigan State, huh? There you go. Well, interesting.
Nebraska is good. I don't know if they still do. They at one point had the longest winning streak in the country. Nebraska still has the longest winning streak in the country. They are now 14-0. They have won 18 straight games. They won, let's not forget, what was it called? The Crown. They won the Crown last year.
And they've been defending Crown champions.
That's right. And they're 14-0. And they're legitimate Big Ten title contenders if they're beating Michigan State. And look, that's one offseason, right? That's one offseason of flipping the roster. And they have some continuity. And Fred Hoiberg is one hell of a coach. That if you give him players, he's gonna win. Akiri, shout out to him. He walks by the press row every game, before and after, says hello to me, and says he'll join the show. He did this time. And he says, what an honor to have Steve join us on Friday night.
The honor's all mine. Thank you for coming. Kiri. Appreciate it.
Does anybody else have any questions? Me and Steve have rambled on plenty here.
Yeah, we've got a podcast too coming on Monday. Got to save some ammo for that.
Yes.
You
Yes.
get home.
If it's a 5-minute ride, I'll be home.
Okay.
I'll be home soon enough.
Gotcha.
I mean, you're already home, so it's not like we have to rush
That's
out
true.
of here. Did we miss anything? Duff, Raymond, first day of the portal. They have a couple of visitors arriving tonight. All of them are FCS guys. That's probably because the FCS guys entered the portal earlier than FBS. I think I might be wrong there, but I'm not quite sure what to think there. I have to do a little bit more of a deep dive on these prospects, but
Right.
I would imagine if Rutgers is having visitors this weekend, that by the end of the weekend they might have their first commit or two out of the portal. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's. I'm going to be very curious about that in numbers and just to see who they're beating out for players. It's going to be a while. I mean, honestly, everyone says it, but it's going to be a while, couple of weeks. I mean, just look around. This sport is so crazy. I love it, but the whole Ole Miss thing. I mean, there's so many different storylines that just blow your mind about it. And Rutgers is right in the middle of it, so it'll be fun to watch.
I had a really fun time watching the games this weekend. I think it's going to be an awesome Final Four. I think really any team winning will be cool. And it's just so much better than the bland Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, yada, yada, Ohio State, blah, blah,
Right.
blah. Some new blood is good for the sport. Back to Rutgers. If you asked me 24 hours ago how I felt about Rutgers going into the transfer portal after Ian Strong entered the portal, I would be very down.
Yes.
If you ask me now, with KJ Duff and Raymond coming back, I feel better. I'm not at a point where I think Rutgers is going to have this huge transfer portal window and completely revitalize its team, but I do feel like they stand a good chance of competing for good defensive players and rebuilding that unit, unless they blew their entire budget on those two guys, which we can debate whether that's a good idea or not. I don't think that's what they did, but barring that, I feel pretty good about where they stand. What about you, Steve?
It would be hard. Let me put it this way. It would be hard to create a positive narrative about this offseason if KJ Duff's playing for Notre Dame next year. That's how I kind of feel about it. Like, if both those guys are gone, it would be very hard to kind of go into next year with any momentum. That would be the big question. You lost your two best offensive players in the portal. That would be the narrative, right? I think this defeats that. Okay, look, we talked about it. We talked about needing money to compete. Okay, this is all we talked about was the athletic director is going to get money for this program, that we're going to keep our best players. We're not going to become the farm system for, these other teams. Here you go. Here's some evidence of that. That's very important to me. I think that's no question about that.
The retention continues to be a core tenet of this program, right? You think that you lose Ian Strong, you lose Mo Toure, a couple of years of losing key guys that maybe they're wobbling a bit, but this program continues to, at the very least, have some continuity and keep the guys they're developing. That's the other thing, too, is it would be a real kick in the nuts if you're a developmental program, you develop these guys into really good players and they start, jumping ship, right? It's good to be rewarded for the fruits of your labor in developing these guys. A couple of quick questions before we go. Thank everyone for tuning in and participating. Raj Shah asks, where should the Ian Strong money be allocated in your opinion? I'll let you go first. We'll work on the we don't have exact dollar amounts. Let's just throw a number out there. Let's say $1 million. You have $1 million you're not spending on Ian Strong. Where are you distributing it to?
Let's focus. Obviously, we've talked about the defensive line ad nauseum. You've got to upgrade that. That's the secondary. You've lost essentially your entire secondary. That would be my second priority. But don't overlook the offensive line either. This is still going to be a team that's going to have to win by scoring points, I think. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of places that money's going to go. There's no question. And maybe in some ways, I don't know. Again, you would have kept Ian Strong. Like, they made a good offer. They wanted Ian Strong back. Let's not be silly about this. They wanted Ian Strong back. But now that he's gone, okay, you save money at that position. In some ways, when you have a limited budget, it might not be the worst thing in the world to have those resources for other positions.
We'll dive into this more on our podcast Monday, but there's an interesting question here of, do you spend your money a lot of money on a few amount of players, right? Do you pay a lot of money for really, really good players and have the risk of one injury derails your season essentially, or do you sprinkle the money around to instead of buying $2 million defensive ends, do you get four $1 million defensive ends? Give that some thought. We'll dive deeper into it on Monday, but I think that's part of the philosophical question here.
Right. I think they tried the. I think they tried the. Yeah. Well, I think they tried the latter, with more mid-range players on defense, and it didn't work this time. So I think they want a couple of home runs this time. That would just be my theory.
Right. I mean, again, you're putting yourself at risk that one injury ruins your season, but I think if you do it the other way, your ceiling is so much lower, right? You might have a less risk of things getting blown up, but you have no real hope of taking the next step, which we've been calling for this program to do ad nauseum for 3 to 4 years. This is the last comment before, unless anyone drops one in, but Dr. Josh Fink says, Happy New Year's to us. I appreciate it. Happy New Year's to you as well, Doctor. Caden Powers needs to play more. He earned it. I agree. I don't know if he has to play a lot. He played 15 minutes tonight. That sounds good to me, I think.
Yeah, I'd see a little bit more at this point from him. Yeah, I mean, I thought his minutes were great. He gets up and down the floor. I don't know. I mean, I'm not without. I think he's got an offensive potential there. I mean, why not? Again, the season's going to be about identifying a couple of those guys who can be keepers, who can be part of this program going forward. I can tell you who's not, right? Like, I can't tell you if he's one of them or not. I think he might be. I think he's got a chance to be. Yeah, I at this point, absolutely. Let me see more Caden Powers over some of the other guys who are getting those minutes, no question.
I agree with you that the key to the season is finding guys to keep and develop. I think that 1B is don't go winless in the Big Ten, right? So if you think he will help you win one of these games, I certainly think give him more room.
Right.
I don't know if you want to play him more just to give him more development, because I don't think they're going to win a lot of games. You have to win one of these games. You cannot be the first team to go over the Big Ten since. I think they will. Will. I'm more confident tonight after watching them play than I was before the game. But until you're eventually you gotta win one, right? Because we're gonna be saying they're gonna win one eventually when there's 5 games left, So just get that monkey off your back, I think, is important. J Max says that Pike coached very poorly. I don't know how much I assign this loss to coaching. Certainly to some extent, but I think when you have a huge talent disadvantage, it's hard to coach through that.
There was one moment, I don't know if you picked up on it, that they made a big deal of it, and the team lost the possession because Pike did not have the awareness that the ball was clearly off of Ogbole late in the game. It bounced out. He made a sub, and that gave Ohio State time to challenge it and get the ball back. I don't know. It was an interesting moment. I mean, you can't hard to fault them too much for it. A little thing that was pretty big in the second half, I thought, momentum wise. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't blame. I don't necessarily I don't think he coached any more poorly than he's coached. He's been here.
Yeah, that's a pretty
nice way to say it. Was tonight any different than last few years?
It's a bit of an indictment. I agree. I don't disagree.
Yeah.
Again, the holding guys on the court a little too long, right? Haroon Zerno and Dennis battle out clearly struggled. They played way too much. I think 10 minutes.
Right.
But he battled the Emmanuel Bole foul storm decently well. They did a decent job early on who's Ohio State's Bruce Thornton. But at some point that dam's going to crack. The challenging thing was just a great challenge from Ohio State. I knew from up here it was clearly off of Rutgers. And then one sneaky moment. This doesn't really fit into coaching, but at the end of the game, I think it's a 2-possession game. Ohio State hits a 3. Rutgers tries to push the tempo, and they immediately commit a turnover. Yeah. Ohio State gets back up here, scores a 2. The game's over, right? So that's not coaching per se, at least not in the moment. It's not a coaching decision, but you can't have your guys commit a silly turnover like that out of trying to push, push too hard for the comeback. I mean, that killed them.
Right, yeah, pretty much.
The last one from Raj Shah: does this performance raise the ceiling for next year? No. No, sorry, Raj, but no.
We're not going there. We're not going. No, we're not handing out participation trophies, as we mentioned. Just we don't know who's going to be the team next year. That's the big question. It's just impossible to do this college basketball anymore, college sports at all, to say, oh, good building block. No, we have no idea. It'd be a completely different team. So you can't look at things that way anymore. It just drives yourself crazy.
So I would say for that is what I will say for the transfer portal for football is let's wait a little bit for everything to finish, and then we can have our big picture points of view. It's fine to react to every game, to every transfer portal addition, subtraction, whatever. Let's wait till we have the full picture, because again, 24 hours ago I thought they were going to go 3-9 next year.
Right
now, I feel like they have a chance of going 6-6 or 7-5, whatever. Right. So I preach patience. I know we do a live after every game and we do a podcast every week, but sometimes we got to look at the big picture. Preach patience.
So I think of you. Patience. Reason. People pointing out that Powers are shooting 28%. Okay, fair point. Yeah, I guess. Freshman, I don't know. Man.
Well, part of that is because he's shooting 1,000 shots a game. I'm going to look this up out of curiosity. I mean, so Caden Powers has played this season. Where's Ken Palm? So this season he has played. Where are the totals? Oh my God! Hold on a second. Sorry to do this live, but I got to get the numbers up. So he has played this season. Where are the minutes? This is killing me. I need to know how many minutes. Okay, he plays 10.6 minutes per game, but how many minutes is that in a season? Whatever. I wanted to see how many minutes he's played versus how many shots he's taken.
Gotcha.
So entering today, he played 87 minutes and took 44 shots. That is one shot every 2 minutes. He has the green. I don't know if he has a green light or not, but he certainly plays like he has a green light. So that's why he makes shots, just because he takes a lot of them. But look, are we going to complain about this team being inefficient? I think, or a player on this team being inefficient? They're all inefficient. Rutgers basketball is inefficient offensively. So let's see. Anything else? You guys keep saying they're great. We're not seeing it. Does Phil Rivers have eligibility? Dr. Josh Fink says. No, he does not. He has played all of his eligibility. I learned yesterday that Kurt Signetti apparently coached Phil Rivers at NC State. Is that true?
I don't know. Good point. He wasn't the head coach. I don't know.
He was not the head coach.
Interesting. No.
He was at NC State from 2000 to 2006. He was the quarterback's coach. So that's a little fun trivia for you guys to coach them all 4 years.
Yeah, take that with you.
All right, I think we're at the point where we're talked ourselves out. So
we're done. We're done here. Thanks for watching. Interesting night. I don't know. And good news for football. Yeah. And then there's the basketball team. That's what I got. That's how I'll sign off. Don't know there's anything new there for me. It's just look away.
If you're a half glass full person, you take the fact they were up 15 points against a Big Ten team tonight. If you're a half glass empty, or I would say realistic person, you realize that didn't matter and they lost anyway. On that note, thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for watching. Thank you to the Heldrick for sponsoring. Please subscribe. We're up to 1,000 subscribers, which is we got a nice little pat on the back for that. And we'll be back on the pod for Monday. Put your questions in the Discord. Put your questions on Twitter. And keep following us because it's going to be a fun couple weeks. Latest.